Michael Jordan has this aura around him, this force field where it's like you can't, as soon as you get into that, people take that shit personally. It's like,
Yeah.
You did you just say somebody other than MJ is the GOAT? I'm like, yeah. And by the way, the GOAT doesn't reside in any other sport except for hockey. The GOAT is Wayne Gretzky. So we need to get that out of the way because Gretzky has more assists than the next guy has points. And he's leading in points. And this is kind of like LeBron. Honestly, very similar to LeBron, except for the fact he's way more dominant, which is saying a lot. Gretzky leads all time in goals scored. LeBron leads all time in points. Neither are considered shooters, scorers. They're playmakers. They're guys that get guys involved. They're guys that fill the stat sheet. They do everything. Gretzky was known as, the guy that could set you up for the shot. But yet he's so far ahead of everyone else in points. Yeah. It's like, that, and that's the thing. It's not necessarily a knock on Jordan, but just this idea like the GOAT. Like, you have to understand what you're saying. You're saying the greatest of all time. If we're talking GOAT in the NBA, and that's what I brought up, the GOAT conversation in the NBA. Okay, now we're talking, depending on who you are, you might bring up Kobe. I don't really see how he's in that argument, and I love him. I think it's between LeBron, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Michael Jordan. I think Wilt Chamberlain has an argument. I think Bill Russell has an argument to a degree. Those are the only guys that I would even, and I'm not saying all those guys I would say, but I'm saying I've heard all those and I've heard decent arguments. Larry Bird as well. And then I think it gets a little watered down after that. But the point is, that's the NBA greatest of all time. When you say the greatest of all time, it's just Gretzky, man. You may not follow hockey, but go and do yourself a favor and look up Gretzky's stats because they are insanity. It doesn't even make sense.
You don't think McDavid has a shot?
I think McDavid does have a shot, but it's going to be hard.
He does? Okay.
He is phenomenal. I mean, you've watched McDavid.
Awesome. I have, yes.
Let me just put it this way. You're watching hockey, and you're like, wow, these guys move really fast on skates. And then you see McDavid, you're like, holy shit, that dude has rockets on his skates because that guy is just faster than everyone else. He's so quick, like he can like shimmy and whatnot. Like, no, he is the closest. And people will say over and over again, Sidney Crosby, and whatever. But I think McDavid is better than Crosby ever was. I don't care who likes what I just said. I do believe that. And you don't have to worry about the complaining and everything. I got nothing against the Penguins, but man, that guy is always running his mouth. But no, I think McDavid has a shot. I'm not saying he'll get there. It's kind of like the same thing, a little bit the same thing, like how Odell Beckham Jr. got off that wicked good start at a young age, and he was theoretically on pace for Jerry Rice numbers. He won't get there, obviously. Maybe Justin Jefferson will. So it's kind of like in that vein where I think, and people disagree with me, but I don't think the GOAT is a quarterback in the NFL. I think the GOAT is Jerry Rice. He's so much more dominant and so much better than everyone else statistically. And I think that's how we should be looking at it. And if your argument is, well, okay, they have the stats, but they don't have the championships. Well, fine. But every one of those guys that's leading by a mile in stats have championships. Gretzky, Jerry Rice, LeBron James. Also bring up your point that you had when we were on Kick. Since when is 4 rings like a bad thing? Like, well, it's just 4 rings. Like,
no, I will say though, championships are the most overrated. It's the most overrated way to compare an asset, a singular asset. It's the worst thing you could ever do. And honestly, I don't mind if somebody doesn't win in basketball or whatever sport. To be honest with you, I think the greatest of all time in basketball can come from somebody who never wins. And I'll actually say that. And the reason I say that, there's way too many variables when it comes to winning a championship. There is, who's your GM? What city are you playing in? How attractive is that city to opposing free agents? Hey, what pick were you drafted in? Were you a late round pick? Obviously much easier to make it in the NBA because you're drafted to a team that's winning already, right? There is a ton of different things that can happen in the NBA. Devin Booker, there's potential that Devin Booker, while I do think Kevin Durant and all this thing will pan out, there's a chance that Devin Booker could end up with 0 championships when he retires, despite all the talent he's playing around, right?
Yeah.
So am I supposed to think that Devin Booker is now suddenly not one of the greatest shooting guards of all time? No. So to me, it's just, it doesn't make sense to look at somebody and say, oh yeah, Michael Jordan's a better player because he was 6-0. Okay, well, who was he playing? Who was the second best player Michael Jordan ever played in the finals? The second best shooter, like actual shooting guard that he had to guard. And it was Clyde Drexler.
I brought that up. You're like who was it? I was like, Clyde Drexler. Like,
Clyde Drexler? Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, do you know what Kobe Bryant would have done to Clyde Drexler?
We can't even say it.
Do you know what LeBron James? Yeah. Do you know what LeBron James would have done to Clyde Drexler? Clyde Drexler's not as good of a player as Kevin Durant. Clyde Drexler's not as good of a player as Kobe Bryant. He's not as good as T-Mac. If Tracy McGrady was the best player that Michael played, I would give him more of a nod. And don't get me wrong, I think Michael is far and away the second best player who ever played. I don't think it's close. I think it is Michael and LeBron. What you can flip-flop them all you want, but they are miles better than the next best player. And I just cannot understand how people can look at LeBron and say, oh yeah, he won 4 times. And then we'll just put him ahead of the guys with 3, and then we'll put him behind the guys who won 6. We don't put Michael behind guys who won 11. We don't put him behind Robert Horry.
I know.
So suddenly, like, I don't understand how we can possibly obsess over championships and then make that the determining factor. Just watch the game. If you watch the game and you say, oh, that guy that he's playing is unbelievable, but he's just more unbelievable. He's better, right? That should be enough to say that this guy is better. You don't have to look at it and say, okay, if Damian Lillard got traded to the Lakers this year for Anthony Davis, and then somehow he won a title with the Lakers, now he's that much better because he won a championship. Just watch the game. Like, guys don't have to move teams. And the reason LeBron James, by the way, left the Cleveland Cavaliers at all was because we were obsessing over championships. It means nothing. I want them to strive to win a championship. I want the ultimate goal to be a championship. But it's not an indictment on a player if he's not on the team that can win a championship, or he's not the winner. Like, because to me now, it's almost like if you're not part of the winning team, they'll say you built a super team if you win. And then if you don't win, they ask you, why don't you go join this team? I'm like, what is wrong with this fan base? What is wrong with NBA Twitter?
Oh, I
guess it's Twitter altogether.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.